Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about the financial truths of being a medical student. When we're talking about the financial truths of being a medical student, we have to mention the fact that when you're in medical school for those 4 years, because of how hard it is and because of how intense it is, it's almost impossible to work. When I started medical school, my administration actually advised me not to work because a lot of the time we're studying for like 10, 12, 20 hours a day. So if you're doing that every single day, it's really difficult to have a job on top of that and fulfill the requirements of the position. And then there's the fact that when you're in the second half of medical school, you're paying in order to attend rotations in the hospital because you're still paying tuition, but you're not in classes anymore. Now that you're attending rotations at the hospital, you're basically working the shift of a doctor to learn what it's like to be a doctor in different specialties, but you're not getting paid for the work that you're doing. The idea is that you're not getting paid because you don't know anything that deserves to be getting paid because you're there to learn. But that isn't really fair because while you are learning, you are also being utilized as extra labor in the hospital. I've been asked to do things by doctors that are not in the job description of a doctor and not in the job description of a medical student, but I do it because I'm an extra set of hands that's available to help. On these rotations, you're often working 10, 12, 14, 24-hour shifts in the hospital, and you're usually working 5 to 6 days a week. So how could you also have a job while having that type of shift? So because of this, because you can't work, you're completely dependent on your loans. And if you don't have anyone to support you financially, or you don't have parents that are willing to pay for you or can pay for you, then you're depending on loans not only for your tuition, but also for your cost of living, like having an apartment or living in a dorm, transportation. All of these things come out of the pocket of the medical student, and it is very financially draining. So when I started school, I knew that it was going to be very intense, so I decided to live on campus. And surprisingly, the dorms on the campus of my school were actually significantly more expensive than the apartments in the surrounding area of the school. So I lived in the dorms for 1 year, and then I moved to an apartment near campus the next year after that. And then when I had to start my rotations, I moved yet again in order to be closer to the hospitals that I'd be rotating at. So my rent decreased, which was great because I had moved out of Manhattan, but now I was paying for transportation to get to the hospitals, which was something else that just came out of my pocket. So again, if you don't have any financial support, you need to account for that when you're taking out your loans. So this is all to say that when we graduate, we end up graduating with a shit ton of debt. And there's this misconception that when doctors graduate medical school, they graduate already making 6 figures, which is just not true. There's this idea that all of the expenses that you're incurring while you're in medical school are okay because you're going to be a doctor. That's what my administration used to tell me all the time, especially when they were raising tuition or asking me to pay for something out of pocket that they weren't going to reimburse. And it's a frustrating statement to me because here I am as an intern about to start residency, and with the salaries that residencies pay across the board, no matter what program, I will not be able to pay off my student loans in the next 3 to 6 years, depending on how much training I go for. So there is definitely this imbalance between what is expected of us financially as medical students and what we actually get when we first become doctors. But okay, so I decided to go to medical school. I decided to become a student and pay tuition for the opportunity to rotate through the hospital and the opportunity to learn from experience. I just wish that the fact that I was a student paying tuition to be there would be taken more seriously by the doctors who I'm supposed to be learning from. I had a rotation in the hospital where the program director literally said to me and my cohort, "You guys are paying $200 a day to be here, so you better make sure that you're getting the most out of the experience." He basically put it on us to make sure that we followed the doctors around and tried to learn what we could learn, by soaking up what we could, and made it our kind of responsibility to get out of it, to get the most out of it. And I understand that thought process to an extent, but I also don't really believe that that makes sense. I believe that if we're paying $200 a day to be there, that we should be getting educated with actual milestones and structure to our education to tell us what we should be taking away from this experience that we're paying $200 a day to get. I think that there's a responsibility on both sides, but if I'm paying for an education, then there is a responsibility to the people who have the knowledge to give me that education to actually set up structure in order to provide this service. If it was just, I could just walk in and learn what I learn and it is what it is with no standardization, then why do I need to pay? I could just be a volunteer. mini rant. So at the end of the day, being a medical student is definitely a financial strain, and it gets harder before it gets easier. But all I can do is hope that it's going to be okay, because I'm going to be a doctor, and as I continue to gain my finances and continue to learn about finance, I will actually be able to pay off my loans and start a solid foundation for my future and for retirement. I definitely don't want to make stupid financial decisions, which so many doctors do once they start making money, because they don't understand how to handle having a salary. None of us have had salaries before. So if I can give you any advice, if you're a medical student in your third or fourth year and you're graduating soon, it would be to start reading financial books when you get into your fourth year in order to prepare for that financial future that you're going to have that we don't really get education about at school. So with that all being said, why would anyone become a doctor? If it's so financially draining and you can get money in other ways, why would you become a doctor? Well, everyone says that you shouldn't become a doctor for the money. If you want to make money, there are other ways, easier ways to make money. And yes, while becoming a doctor is an expensive endeavor and it takes a lot of time, it comes with a lot of job security in the end. People are always going to need doctors because people are always going to get sick, or their bodies are always going to catch up to them eventually as we age. So therefore, there will always be a need for physicians. This is pretty unique to this field, where other fields are kind of more reliant on other factors, that if those factors were to disappear, then the job disappears. And for doctors, that will never really happen. Another benefit, I guess, of becoming a doctor is that there is a high earning potential for doctors, especially the further that you specialize in the field. So even though you're delaying the opportunity to actually make money, once you actually do start making money and once you specialize, the amount of money you can make does grow exponentially. So this has been the financial truths of being a medical student. Nobody really talks about this stuff, so I hope that it's been interesting and informative and not too depressing. I'm not here really complaining about it. I made this decision to go into this field, and this is everything that comes with it. But it's just the facts. This is the truth. At the end of the day, I became a doctor because I want to help people. And it has to pay off somehow. If not financially, then at least morally. So I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!